Hi, I'm Alex, and this is dunder main in Python. So one of the peculiarities I used to get confused about when I first started programming in Python was the apparent need to use this conditional statement. If double underscore name equals double underscore main, then call main at the end of all of my scripts. And that's what this video is about. I'm going to make it clear where that particular construct is useful. Okay, so starting with a relatively simple example. It's quite common in programming applications or game dev to want to search through the files in a folder and find a specific file. So I created a script called folderscanner.py with a single function called getFilesInFolder, a single useful function. It also has a main function which simply it gets the current folder, and then it calls that function getFilesInFolder, and then it just prints the list of files that it finds. So finally, when main is called at the bottom of that script, we expect to see the list of files within the folder. So let's just check that that works. We run it, and yep, we see that it's printed off all the files it found in this folder, Python beginners. Okay, now that's simple enough, eh? But what about if we wanted to use that script elsewhere? We want to import it and reuse it as a module in another script. So another common programming application is the loading of some data from a file. For example, in a game, we might like to load some user data. I've just written a really brief example here of some users. There's a list of users with names and player types. You don't really need to understand that. It's just to give you some context. So I've created a user data util script in order to load those files. Now, the load user data function I defined is actually just a placeholder. I'm not going to bother actually loading that data. It just tells you it's loading the data, and it prints that off. And again, I've got a main function which it goes into the examples folder in order to find that specific type of file, and then it calls critically. It calls the getFilesInFolder function from folder scanner. That's this function again, remember. And then goes through those files, and where it finds a file with an extension .json, it will then call load user data in this function, in this script, and print that message. Okay, so just to be really clear on that, what's happening here is we are importing the folder scanner script in order to call getFilesInFolder from it, okay? And again, we call main, which calls this main function so that something actually happens. So let's run that and check what happens. So we're now running user data utils, and yes, it does find a userdata.json file and pretends to load it. But the thing is, it also prints off all the other files within the folder that script is run from, and that's not quite what we wanted. The reason that's happening is because in folder scanner, we have a main defined but also called. So that back in user data utils, when we import that script at the top here, it's going to actually, on importing that script, it's going to run every line in that script, including the main call at the bottom of the script. And that's why we see the files all printed off when we're calling user data utils script. Not quite what we want. So that's where the dunder main conditional statement becomes really useful, because we can check if the double underscore name, which is just a Python special word for the name of this module, the name of the module loaded, whenever a Python script is run or imported, it's interpreted and loaded by the Python interpreter. So if that's equal to the special name main, which is always the top level module name, so the first script that's run, then we'll run main. Otherwise, nothing's going to happen. Let's just add one more line here to see what the name of that module actually is at all times. So let's say the folder scanner .py module name is, and then use that same name, double underscore name special word. Okay, so now when we run user data utils, We hope that this is no longer called because it's not going to be the top level script called. So we're running user data utils again, and there we go. Now we're only seeing the user data loaded from JSON. We're not seeing that module main run anymore. And also we see that now the folder scanner.py module name is called folder scanner. And just to make that completely clear, if we would check the name of the module we're running in user data utils, so I will change this to utils.py module name is, and we see when we run this again that again the user data is loaded, but now we also see the user data utils module name is now _main. So there we go. That's where the dunder main or _main name check is useful. It's so that you don't accidentally run your main functions when you're importing a script into another.